learn English through story. The hidden path. Amelia gazed out at the horizon from her apartment window, the city's skyline glittering with a kind of lifeless beauty. The world had moved forward with dizzying speed, and more technology, more distractions, and more meaningless routines. It was a rhythm she had danced to for years without ever questioning it. Work, home, occasional social events, and back again. Everything in her life was predictable, organized, and utterly devoid of passion. At 33, she had a stable job in finance, a meticulously decorated home, and a well-structured life. Yet, beneath the layers of orderliness, Amelia felt a creeping emptiness, the kind of void that no promotion, no weekend trip, and no fleeting romance could fill. She had become a stranger to herself, moving through her days as though following a script written by someone else. The whispers of discontent had grown louder in her heart, telling her that there was something more at 30-something just beyond her reach, waiting to be discovered. One evening, after another long day of numbers and spreadsheets, she sat at her kitchen table sipping a glass of wine, her thoughts distant. She had a book open in front of her, a novel she had picked up on a whim at a second-hand shop, its title catching her eye, The Hidden Path. It was an old book, the pages yellowed and the cover worn, but something about it had called to her. She had barely glanced at the first few pages, her mind too preoccupied to focus. But tonight, the wine warm in her veins and the soft hum of the city outside, she decided to give it another try. The story was about a woman, much like herself, stuck in a life that felt too small, too confined. The protagonist, Emma, had stumbled upon a hidden path in the forest near her home, a path that no one else seemed to notice. She followed it out of curiosity, and as she walked deeper into the woods, strange things began to happen. The forest around her seemed to breathe, to pulse with life in a way she had never experienced before. She encountered mysterious symbols etched into the trees, heard whispers on the wind, and eventually found herself standing before an ancient, forgotten temple, its doors creaking open as though inviting her in. Amelia felt a chill run down her spine as she read, the words on the page wrapping around her like a spell. The story felt both familiar and distant, as though it were tapping into something deep within her that she had long since forgotten. She kept reading late into the night, the words carrying her into a world of mystery and wonder, until she finally drifted off to sleep, the book still open in her lap. That night, she dreamed of the hidden path. She was walking through a forest, the air thick with the scent of pine and earth, the sound of her footsteps muffled by the soft, mossy ground. The trees loomed tall and ancient around her, their branches twisting together to form a canopy that blocked out the sky. She walked with purpose, though she didn't know where she was going. All she knew was that she needed to keep moving, to find whatever lay at the end of the path. When she awoke the next morning, the dream lingered in her mind, vivid and unsettling. It felt more like a memory than a dream, and for the first time in years, she felt a sense of restlessness, a longing for something she couldn't quite name. Over the next few days, the dream haunted her. She found herself thinking about it constantly, replaying it in her mind, wondering what it meant. The book sat on her nightstand, and though she hadn't finished it yet, she knew that it was speaking to her in some strange, inexplicable way. One Saturday afternoon, Amelia decided to take a break from her usual weekend routine of errands and cleaning. Instead, she drove out of the city, heading toward the countryside. She had no specific destination in mind, only a vague desire to be somewhere quiet, away from the noise and chaos of her life. As she drove along the winding roads, she found herself drawn to a small, unmarked trail that veered off the main road. It wasn't on the map, and there were no signs to indicate where it led, but something about it called to her. Without hesitation, she parked her car at the side of the road and began walking down the trail. The further she walked, the more the world around her seemed to shift. The air grew cooler, the trees thicker and more ancient, their branches weaving together like the arches of a forgotten cathedral. The light filtering through the leaves had a strange, otherworldly quality to it, casting everything in a soft, green glow. The path beneath her feet was narrow and overgrown, as though it hadn't been walked in years, but it felt familiar, like the path from her dream. Amelia's heart raced as she continued on, her senses heightened. Every sound, every rustle of leaves, felt amplified, as though the forest itself was alive and watching her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking toward something important, something that would change everything. After what felt like hours, the trees suddenly parted, revealing a clearing bathed in golden sunlight. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient stone structure, half buried in the earth and covered in moss and vines. It was a small, withered temple, much like the one from her dream. Amelia stood frozen at the edge of the clearing, her breath catching in her throat. She felt a pull toward the temple, an overwhelming urge to step inside, but fear held her back. What was this place? How had she found it, and why did it feel so familiar? After a moment of hesitation, she took a deep breath and stepped forward, her feet carrying her across the clearing toward the temple. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, and as she approached the entrance, the heavy stone doors creaked open on their own, just as they had in the book. Amelia's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped inside, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. The interior of the temple was small and simple, with stone walls covered in faded symbols and a single altar at the center of the room. On the altar lay a book, its cover worn and ancient, much like the one she had been reading. She approached the altar cautiously, her fingers trembling as she reached for the book. As soon as she touched it, a wave of warmth washed over her, and the symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, illuminating the room with a soft, ethereal light. Amelia opened the book, her hands shaking. The pages were filled with strange, indecipherable symbols, but as she stared at them, they began to shift and change, forming words in a language she could understand. It was a story, much like the one she had been reading, but this time, the protagonist was not Emma, it was her. The book told the story of her life, from her childhood to her present moment, detailing every choice she had made, every path she had taken. It spoke of her discontent, her longing for something more, and her journey to this very temple. But as she turned the pages, the story shifted, revealing a path she had not yet taken, a path that led her away from the life she had known and toward something greater. Amelia's breath caught in her throat as she read the final words of the book. The path is hidden, but it has always been there, waiting for you to find it. Follow it, and you will discover the truth of who you are. She closed the book, her heart pounding in her chest. The words resonated deep within her, awakening something she had long since forgotten, a sense of purpose, of destiny. She had spent her entire life searching for meaning, for something to fill the void inside her, but she had been looking in the wrong places. The path she had been seeking was not one that could be found in the city, in her job, or in the life she had built. It was a hidden path, one that led inward, toward the truth of who she really was. As she stood in the temple, the weight of her old life began to lift from her shoulders. She realized that the discontent she had felt for so long was not a sign of failure, but a sign that she was ready to move forward, to embrace the unknown. The hidden path was not a physical journey, but a spiritual only, a journey toward self-discovery, toward understanding her true purpose in life. With a sense of clarity she had never felt before, Amelia left the temple and walked back through the forest, the path before her no longer seeming so dark or mysterious. She knew now that the answers she had been seeking were not out there in the world, but within herself. The hidden path had always been there, waiting for her to find it. Over the next few weeks, Amelia began to make changes in her life. She left her job in finance, realizing that it had never truly fulfilled her. Instead, she pursued her passion for writing, a dream she had long buried under the weight of practicality. She began to travel, exploring new places, meeting new people, and embracing the unknown with an open heart. But more than that, she began to listen to her own inner voice, the one she had silenced for so long. She no longer cared about fitting into the mold that society had created for her. She was on her own path now, a path that was uniquely hers. As the months passed, Amelia found a sense of peace and fulfillment that she had never known before. She realized that the hidden path was not about finding some grand external purpose, but about living authentically, about being true to oneself. It was about embracing the journey, with all its twists and turns, and trusting that it would lead her exactly where she needed to go. The hidden path had revealed itself to her, not as a destination, but as a way of life, a way of living with intention, passion, and purpose. And in the end, that was all she had ever truly wanted. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.